Now, what happens when your religion demands one thing and the law another? A traditional open-air cremation of an Asian man in Northumberland has led to a legal wrangle. Funeral pyres have been illegal in Britain since 1930, but the local police let the ceremony go ahead out of respect for the family's religious beliefs. Our correspondent, Catherine Marston, is in Northumberland. Catherine.
At a secret location in the countryside around this village, an extraordinary scene, a funeral pyre, the first in Britain for decades. It's a religious ceremony, but open cremation is illegal in Britain. Religious leaders say, though, that they want to see more of them. The flames of an open-air funeral pyre, the first in Britain for more than 70 years. This Hindu ceremony frees the spirit and allows reincarnation. Earlier, before the pyre was lit, the family paid their last respects. As Sikhs, they follow the Hindu tradition of open cremation. Rajpal Mihat's family were desperate he be cremated this way after he was found drowned in a canal in London.
She says what she would have done back home, she's happy to do it here. And that has given her the satisfaction and peace of her mind.
On the River Soar in Leicestershire, a family scatter ashes and petals. This was just last month. There was no open-air cremation for this family, but campaigners say more Hindus and Sikhs want to follow the long-standing tradition. It stems from the Hindu ceremonies along the banks of the River Ganges, the holiest river according to their faith.
This is the goddess of money.
Right. In a Hindu temple, the man who organised the funeral pyre in Northumberland says many more families want a similar ceremony. But the Cremations Authority says that's breaking the law. He tells me the law is outdated and doesn't reflect a multicultural society.
We have never asked for anything. And this is our religious right. This is our birthright. So I thought, well, we should go for it. And secondly, it's the mother whose son died. She requested me to do it exactly as it would have been done in India.
The dying embers of the fire mark an end to this ceremony, but campaigners say it won't be the first and last. They'll fight to continue their tradition.
It's believed to be Britain's first open-air funeral pyre for more than 70 years, and it was held at a secret location in Northumberland today. But afterwards, the police said it was illegal, despite giving the go-ahead earlier in the day. The 31-year-old Sikh who was cremated was found dead in a canal in London last year. Well, today's controversial funeral was part of a campaign to give people from different faiths more choice over how they're laid to rest. Sharuna Sagar reports.
At a secret location in the Northumberland countryside, a Sikh mother is about to cremate her only son. Her only solace is the belief that his soul will rest in peace as long as religious ritual is strictly observed.
36 herbs that go in there, that not only purifies the body, it purifies the soul also. The people, when they come, they could see with their own eyes what's happening. Their feelings come out. And when they go back home, they're at ease.
Belief in reincarnation is at the centre of this funeral. Illegal immigrant Rajpal Mehat was found dead last December. His mother and sister were traced and brought over from the Punjab for his funeral, as his body was too decomposed to transport back home.
She says what she would have done back home, she's happy to do it here. And that has given her the satisfaction and peace of her mind.
Well, the funeral pyre is now well alight and it will burn here for up to 12 hours, tended to by mourners. Now, when the ashes are allowed to cool down naturally, they'll then be gathered up and then they're going to be taken to India, where the family will scatter them over the holy river Ganges. This is the first time an open-air funeral pyre has been publicly carried out in this country since the 1930 Cremation Act. Some say the existing law is solely concerned with the day-to-day running of crematoria and does not respect and reflect the last rites of different faiths and beliefs.
It's significant because all public servants should be questioning why they haven't been providing multicultural services for at least 30, 40 years. 30 years ago, for example, the Commission for Racial Equality did address the question of Muslim burials. The question then arises, why didn't they address the question of cremation for Sikhs and Hindus in particular?
It's been at least 6 months since the Anglo Asian Friendship Society, a charity based in Newcastle, made public its intention to hold a Hindu funeral just as soon as the opportunity presented itself. And not even a visit from the police earlier this morning was going to stop them.
On the face of it appears to be absolutely nothing illegal in what they propose to do. The position is they have a legal death certificate, they have permission to carry out a crematorium, and Northumbria Police want to recognise and respect their cultural and religious beliefs, and the funeral pyre will be going ahead.
Now the flames of this issue have been fanned once more. Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists and anyone else who welcomes the choice are now awaiting with interest to see if this Eastern religious tradition will be kept alive in the West.
Well, Sharuna joins us live from the Anglo Asian Friendship Society in Gosforth now. Sharuna, despite an earlier statement by the police today, they're now saying that this funeral pyre cremation was actually illegal. Where do we stand with that?
Yes, they seem to have changed their tune a little since this morning. The police have now said further investigations have followed on, and they believe that offences may have been committed under the Cremation Act 1902 in relation to where human remains can legally be cremated. And they now say that they're discussing the matter further with the community, their partners and the local authorities.
And what has Newcastle City Council had to say about that?
Well, Newcastle City Council also issued a statement, and they said that they met with representatives of the Anglo Asian Society and they discussed the proposal to have open-air funeral pyres and the legalities surrounding the issue. The council went on to say that they requested their own legal advice on the matter. They got that in April, and the advice that they got stated that any burning of human remains on pyres, as proposed, would be unlawful. Now, the Anglo Asian Friendship Society, and behind me you can see them performing some of the funeral ceremonies ongoing from today. They've said that they did their own extensive legal research into this matter, and they insist it's a grey area. In fact, they feel so strongly about their cause that they're now preparing a case to take to the European Court of Human Rights, because they believe that it's every human being's right to live and die by their faith.
Thank you, Sharuna.
At a secret location in rural South Northumberland, Babaji Devinder Ghai lights the funeral pyre in a ceremony never seen before in this country. Rajpal Mihat was 31 years old when his body was found in a canal in London last December. He'd been working in Britain illegally and the police had struggled to identify him. Numbers on his mobile phone led them to the Anglo Asian Friendship Society in Newcastle, where Mr. Ghai was able to identify him and bring his family to England. Mr. Mihat's body was considered unfit to be flown back to India, but today his mother and sister were able to mourn their loss in a way they felt best.
With the help of Mr. Ghai, we are doing the most important thing for him now. By lighting his body on the funeral pyre, his soul will be released to find peace from torment he suffered in the last moment of his life.
Earlier, officers from Northumbria Police, acting on a tip-off, had called at the Society's Gosforth headquarters. The organisation's been at the centre of a campaign to allow traditional open-air cremations in Britain. Since the 1930s, it's been understood that burning a body outside registered crematoria was an offence, a position the government's Department for Constitutional Affairs continued to state today. But after half an hour of talks, the police stood aside.
And I've ascertained that on the face of it appears to be absolutely nothing illegal in what they propose to do. The position is they have a legal death certificate, they have permission to carry out a crematorium, and Northumbria Police want to recognise and respect their cultural and religious beliefs, and the funeral pyre will be going ahead.
Thank you. I'm absolutely adamant that it's legal. More importantly, judges in the 19th, 20th and 21st century have been adamant that it's legal. I think if you ask 90% of lawyers, they may not quite agree, but I think any reasonable legal interpretation has to be based on the comments of judges, not of lawyers or civil servants.
Tonight, though, Northumbria Police said they believed offences may have been committed under the 1902 Cremation Act. Tomorrow, when the ashes have cooled, they'll be collected for return to India, where they'll be scattered on the sacred waters of the river Ganges. Neil Gander, ITV Tyne Tees, Northumberland.
First they said it was legal and then they said it wasn't, and tonight it seems Northumbria Police are still unsure whether the first traditional Indian open-air cremation ever held in Britain should have been allowed to take place at all.
Well, yesterday, grieving relatives gathered at a secret location in Northumberland for the funeral pyre. Tonight, as the debate into burning bodies continues, the dead man's ashes were collected and will be flown home soon. Siobhan Casey reports.
Here in a field in Northumberland, a grieving mother is comforted by loved ones as her son's funeral pyre is lit in a scene never witnessed before in Britain. Hindu tradition dictates that bodies must be burnt in the open air. Instead of choosing a Western burial, many Indian families fly the remains of their loved ones back home. If they don't have an outdoor burial, they believe there will be catastrophic consequences for the departed soul. But 31-year-old Rajpal Mihat had drowned in a canal in London. It took so long for him to be found and identified that his body was declared unfit to be flown back to India. So his funeral was arranged by the race relations group, the Anglo Asian Friendship Society. But it was surrounded by confusion and controversy. Since the 1930s, it was thought that burning a body outside of a registered crematoria was an offence. Northumbria Police initially told mourners the funeral could not go ahead. But then, following a conversation with the Friendship Society's legal advisor, they said it could take place after all. Then, after the ceremony had taken place, and following advice from the government's Department for Constitutional Affairs, Northumbria Police said it could in fact have been illegal under the Cremation Act of 1902. It's still not clear if any charges will be brought. Northumbria Police say they're now discussing the matter further with their partners and local authorities. Meanwhile, as the legal wrangling continues, Mr. Mihat's ashes have now been collected and will be flown back to India.
Well, you've heard the arguments about funeral pyres, and we'd like to know what you think in our North East Tonight phone vote.
We're asking, should funeral pyres be legal? Let us know what you think on 09011 12 34 19. That's 09011 12 34 19. And you can press 1 for yes or 2 for no. You can also text your answer by sending TTTV yes or no to 63338. Calls cost 25 pence and texts cost 25 pence plus your standard network rate. And we'll let you know the results on tomorrow's programme.